Right, straight into it. So we say moving more, we say following kind of that eating pattern. We're feeling okay, we've got a bit more control over it, a bit more routine into it. We gain a better, healthier relationship with food because we've got a bit of give in it. Where we're, okay, yeah, we can have a bit of a treat, blah blah blah. Right, so we're doing that, but we want to push it. So that's where if you are walking, let's have some more. Fantastic, simple fix. If you're doing 2 or 3 workouts, maybe add an extra one in, but don't go nuts. Just don't want to push yourself too much. But you could consider that if you can't do the extra walking. But I'd probably go the extra walking really because it's a bit more low impact. So let's bumble bumble get a weight on. If we haven't done that already, let's get some weights in that backpack and let's just up that activity that way. What else can we do? Okay, green tea. Green tea is one of the things, it's just been shown in loads and loads of studies for help boost metabolism, help you stop absorbing fat, help you to just burn fat a bit more effectively. There's a lot of different like supplements and things you can do, or you can just buy some, so you can buy a green tea extract, right? You can do that and you can take that a couple of times a day. If it's got caffeine, don't take it later on. Or you can just make some green tea. So I tend to do this. I have proper stuff, like the leaf stuff. And this is what I'm going to do from next week because this is where I'm going into now, the next phase of cutting. And I'll start making a pot of that at night, my little pot. And then in the morning, I just, I'll have a bottle, I'll add that to some juice and some other bits, might throw some supplements in there or whatever, who knows. But like, generally, some green tea. And then I'm just going to drink that. Simple. Get it out throughout the day. So so literally increase your activity and add a little bit of green tea, and I promise you it'll make a little bit of a difference. Now, in terms of food and stuff like that, now I don't know where you're at here. I don't know how indulgent you're being at tea. If you're still having a takeaway every night and stuff. So if you are, let's take that down a little bit and let's go for more home cooked. But if you're already in home cooked meals and we're already doing that, I'm not going to change too much. You know what I mean? That's life, that's conducive for life. And I don't want to start going, push that eating window because again, that you're cutting, that's a stress anyway. So really, I want the frequency of whatever you're doing. Let's say that's eggs and that's eggs and bacon in the morning with a piece of fruit. Let's say that's that's works for you and you're doing that. And then in the day, you're just snacking on fruit. That's fine. Let's just stick with that. But then you're going to tea, and maybe you are being a bit overindulgent. You know what I mean? Maybe you're having a really big portion, and then you're having like a big bowl of ice cream and then another snack. I do this. I love picking out in the evening. Okay, can we cut that portion down a little bit? Keeping the frequency there, but like, okay, there's a good example. So let's say I like cottage pie. I love a cottage pie. So what we'll do is we might top it with root veg instead. So instead of putting the potato on it, and this isn't every night, it's just like a few nights a week, we'll just make it a leaner tea. Let's say we usually do like steak and chips. We'll do steak and root veg. So again, we might have mashed root veg, might have roasted butternut squash. We'll just mix it up that way. So we're cutting the kind of calories down a little bit, the carbohydrates down a bit, but there's still, it's still nice. That cottage pie with root veg is still decent, but it significantly, does all those calories, but the meal frequency is the same. This is what I would do when I'm fighting. So I used to have to cut down from, I'd walk around about 73, 74, and I'd cut down to like 66.6, so I'd be in a fight week, I'm 70-ish, get down to 66.6, when I fought I was like 73, 74, because I ballooned up, right? And this is, I keep the meal frequency exactly the same. If anything, I'd be eating more often to boost that metabolism. So that's where I would be like, keep snacking, bits of fruits, low calories, don't worry about it. A few bits of fruit, a little bit of chicken, whatever keeps you going. But, some jerky, it's just like, again, let's not overly complicate it. Sometimes for me it's just a fucking cappuccino, some sugar, and just get some calories in me because I'm on the go and I'm not prepped, I've not brought anything with me. I'm not arsed about you living at a Tupperware. Let's keep it nice and fucking simple. But it could be some more boiled eggs throughout the day. But the point is, I would keep the frequency there. If anything, I might even increase it because I'm really trying to just keep things going, but I cut down the portions, right? So the overall calories were still going down a little bit, and I just find creative ways like that root veg thing and stuff to do that. So again, let's say you're having a potato or pasta or a rice and meat. Well, that just becomes that with some veg. If you're having chicken, rice, and broccoli, it might be chicken and broccoli. And it's just a creative way to do it. And what I'd say, especially as we're moving into it, don't just go from each night of the week. Let's say you're having a complex carbohydrate, right? You're having like rice, you're having pasta or whatever. You're having something like that every night. Let's knock it off 3 nights. Don't knock it off 5. You know what I mean? Knock it off 2, knock it off 3. Because we need some room. Because as we're moving further forward, we're going to have to find some more room, aren't we? We might have to walk a little bit more or put some more activity in. So at this stage as well, what you can consider. So another thing is start wearing base layers because your body fat's dropping, hopefully, and we want to raise that core temperature up a little bit. We want to boost that metabolism. Coconut oil does that. There's studies on it, how they tried to fatten pigs up with it and they got leaner. So checking time, I'm gonna go pick my lad up soon. But they think it, they try to fatten pigs up and the pig got leaner. Dead interesting, it definitely boosts metabolism. I follow some guys who measure the body temp, right? And coconut oil always boosts it, and I always find this. Whenever I start adding coconut oil, and even a couple of spoons in the morning, or it's in my cup, however I do it, I find that I am hungry earlier in the day, and I can feel like more of like, you get that feeling like, fucking hell, I really need to eat, like, because I've done a lot. You get that as well, like earlier in the day or more often, because you've not prepared for the boost it's going to give you. It always helps, and there's lots of other little health benefits to it as well. It gets you better at metabolising fat because it's a medium chain fatty acid, so you can metabolise it more quickly for energy. That's why it's good in the morning. But again, you don't have to. But what you can do, start putting some layers on. Start putting a base layer on. And that's what I'm going to start to do from next week. I'll start to add base layers. I'll start to keep my jumper on more often because it is colder anyway. But I'm going to keep that temperature up. I want to be, I don't want anything to slow down. I still want to be burning energy and keeping my body. Like, I think like a furnace, I'm stoking that fire and I'm putting good quality food on it. I'm being careful about, how much shit I'm going to put in. I'm probably, if the kids go Mackey's, I'm definitely not getting something at this point, right? Or if I do, it's because I'm going to get a brew or an ice cream. It's going to be very, minimal. I'm not going to be like, there's a double cheeseburger and that. Not that I do that dead often, but in my life, I like to have a little bit of that here and there. Five Guys is better though, fucking me. I love food. If you follow me on Instagram, I love food. I love cooking. So that helps as well. So the point is, so let's say I'm having a fucking, a nice lasagna for tea, right? You know what I mean? And that's what I've been having. I fucking love lasagna. So, and I've used like full fat mince and everything. Well, again, it's just like, I use lean mince. I use a few less pasta sheets. I'm just trying to give you an insight of how I would do it. So rather than me telling you do this, this, and this, I want you to create your own version of this. I'm just telling you the tips and tricks I use to manage my weight. And again, I've got pictures going back now, like well over a decade, from where I've been lean and stayed lean. I've essentially been relatively lean. Like, I'm a bit heavier now, I've got a bit chubbier, but that's because, again, I spent fucking year trying to get bigger and pack some muscle on, because I had all these things and trying to put, I was starving myself while I was doing it. I need to let all that recover. Plus, food's good for stress, man. And sometimes we need our periods where we're eating more just to calm everything down. But I got lean when I was like 16, 15, and I've kind of, maintained a relatively good physique since then. So these are the things I picked up along the way, and I also, from other people, I know what other people do as well, and it's pretty common themes. It's pretty simple, but that's how I leverage it. That's it now. So we're going into that next stage, and then as we're pushing it, if you're going to get really, really lean, there's some deprivation. So that's when we're going to have to really, let's say we're having a bit of yogurt and fruit, in the afternoon, you're going to have some fruit. Let's say you're having some meat and some fruit. Maybe it's one or the other. It's like, and it's not optimal for health and stuff, but for getting lean, maybe that's what we're going to do for a short period of time. But what I would always say is, no matter how much of that we're doing, I still want you to have that gap. So let's say you open your window of, fuck it. And it goes from, like me, when I finish work now, it goes from Friday night to kind of Sunday afternoon, evening. That's what it kind of does for me, if I'm honest. And I use some of these tricks within, but yeah, that's what it can go to for me. Well, that window might close. It might be Saturday dinner to Sunday dinner. It might be Saturday night to Sunday night, but I still want you to, in that period, just have what you feel like. Whatever you've been thinking about all week, get out your system. If that's pizza or ice cream, it's pizza and ice cream. It's going out for a Mackey's, it's going out for a Mackey's. I don't give a shit. Have fun with it. Still be mindful of ingredients. Start to add the green tea in. There's other things like alpha-lipoic acid, which can help if you're having sugar. So at the weekend, you could purr the green, so your extra calorie consumption. But what I would say as well, another way you could leverage this as well, is I build my workouts, right? So I'll talk about this in a separate video, but I build my workouts from, it starts off at the beginning of the week, sort of body weight, then I start to add in kettlebells, dumbbells, slam balls, other things, and then if I'm going to do a tough workout, it's going to be at the end of the week, with sandbags and plyometrics and things like that, do my training with my lad and stuff. When I'm eating more calories. So I'm doing my most powerful, most explosive, intense stuff when I'm eating more food. So that's a good way to leverage it. So we're going to be potentially fueling our workouts and fueling our muscles and our recovery, right? So it's a good way to, so strict at the beginning of the week, that's where we really push, and then we relax a little bit, but we push our training. and it's about keeping balance. You know, it's about homeostasis in it. You know, not letting the body know what you're trying to do to it, because it doesn't want to lose all that fight. Wants to keep it for when there's a famine. Particularly if you've got a history of dieting, it's brought your metabolism. But we'll go on about that in another day. Anyway, so that's what we can do as well. So we can leverage it kind of by doing that. You know, we can up our walking, we can add a backpack in. Sorry, my battery's getting low, so I'll probably make this my last video of the day. We can also look at something called alpha-lipoic acid. And when you're eating sugar, or carbohydrates, you can have that, and it just helps you to shunt it more to the muscles. It's been helped to stop the glucose spike as well. Glycine's another thing that you can add into your brew, which can just mitigate those spikes of insulin. And these are things that I will be utilising as well as I get further into this stage. So let's say at the weekend I do have a big pizza and a big bowl of ice cream. I'll take that with the green tea, you know, and that's just going to help me a little bit. Garlic extract's another one as well. Don't go nuts with it, I'm just giving you some examples. I will do some supplement videos as well, because there's all sorts of wonderful supplements out there that can help with various things. But that's it. Again, I'm not trying to tell you exactly what to do. I'm just laying out what I do, what's worked for me, and what's kept me in reasonable shape as a dad of three who's run his own business for years, who's completed multiple, like, you know, I've got 2 degrees at this point, loads of training courses, blah, blah, I had loads of personal issues, and I've been able to keep going through all that. So these are what work for me, and hopefully they can work for you too. And that's it. And I'm just trying to give you an insight of how I do things and why I'm doing them and why they work. Then you can take that and build your own version of it, because that's what all this is about. It's all about education. It's all about, there might be 2 or 3 things you've heard here that click and they're right for you. And that's it, right? That's it. That's all you needed. You know, it could be, I'll leave it there. But the point is, I hope it's been useful. I'm going to add more and more to it, so don't worry, there'll be more videos. But these are the 2 kind of just first lessons on nutrition.